Hi, and welcome to another edition to the Get Started series, in which we cover talents, Azerite traits, stats, rotation, and more. In this episode, we're going to be covering Holy Priest. First, as always, let's cover your normal talents. As Holy Priest, your talents as default should look like this, but there is some we were wanting to be changing depending on the situation, which we will cover now. First up, for the level 15 row, you have the choice between Enlightenment, Trial of Light, and Enduring Renewal. Enlightenment makes your mana generation 10% faster. With how Holy Priest works, you generally don't go as a lot of healing comes passively from Renew and Prayer of Mending, which are low mana cost. However, in some matchups, and Battlegrounds specifically, this can be taken when you don't need the added healing from Trial of Light. Trial of Light duplicates 40% of your flash healing on the previous target you flash healed. This is a great tool when dealing with spread pressure and allows you to more easily top your teammates. This should be your primary choice here when you don't need the mana from Enlightenment. Last up is Enduring Renewal. It makes it so your single target healing spells refresh the duration of your renew onto the target. This is fine in theory, but the added healing from Trial of Light or mana regeneration from Enlightenment far outperform this talent. Also, Renew is spread passively via Prayer of Mending with the talent Benediction, so a lot of the time you will find Renew is already being applied. For the level 30 talents, we have the choice between Angel's Mercy, Preservance, and Angelic Feather. Angel's Mercy helps reduce the cooldown of Desperate Prayer based on the damage you are taking. This is great versus compositions that do burst damage, as the reduced cooldown on Desperate Prayer can greatly help you in surviving. Preservance gives you a flat out 10% damage reduction after casting Renew on yourself. This can be great versus high consistent damage comps that you are likely to do damage to you as well, such as Warlocks and Shadow Priests. Angelic Feathers are multi-purpose. They can help you in kiting with Fade or assist you in landing crowd control, so should be taken in situations where you value the extra mobility over the damage reduction from Renew or healing from Desperate Prayer. Up next are the level 45 talents, Cosmic Ripple, Guardian Angel, and Afterlife. Cosmic Ripple is a replica of the old artifact trait we used to have that would emit a small heal once your holy words come off cooldown. The healing from this is so weak it's not going to ever make a difference in Arena. However, can be considered when doing AoE healing in Battlegrounds, as it gives you the most throughput of the other two. Guardian Angel reduces the cooldown of Guardian Spirit if the target survives. This, although may not at first glance seem strong, compared to the other two is the default choice for Arena, meaning you can use Guardian as a way to top allies and to counter strong single target pressure. Afterlife increases the duration of your Spirit of Redemption by 50%. This is useless for Arena due to getting any use from it would require you to die, and thus losing the game. However, it has its place in Battlegrounds as you can use it as a tool to recover so that you are more difficult to fully wipe. The level 60 talents are our crowd control tier. We have the option to choose between Psychic Voice, Censure, and Shining Force. In Battle for Azeroth, Holy Priest once again gets Fear back. Psychic Voice reduces the cooldown of it by half. This is the optimal choice in Arena for most setups, as you now bring a lot of crowd control with Chastise into a shorter cooldown Fear. Censure can be taken when you are playing a composition that lacks stuns or already has a spammable Fear, like when playing with a Warlock for example, as Censure makes your Chastise, which is a Disorient, into a 4-second stun, allowing you to set up kills more easily. Shining Force is a 45-second cooldown knock that slows. Think Thunderstorm from Elemental Shamans, except you can target it on whatever player you like. This can be taken in situations where you don't need the extra stun or the ability to fear off cooldown. Also, Shining Force should be taken for Battlegrounds, where you can take advantage of the terrain. Up next are the level 75 talents, where we have the choice of Surge of Light, Binding Heal, and Circle of Healing. Surge of Light should be your primary choice here in Arena. It should be taken in all Arena games. It makes your Flash of Light instant and costs no mana, stacking twice. This provides you more instant healing and reduced cooldown on your Serenity, and works great with the Azerite trait we will be selecting later. Bind and Heal is the primary focused around PvE and shouldn't ever be considered for PvP. It's too weak of a heal to ever cast, so it opens you up to interrupts. Never take this talent in any situation. Finally, the last option is Circle of Healing. This can be considered for rated and non-rated battlegrounds when you are going to be having big scale team fights, as if used off cooldown will provide more healing overall than Surge of Light. For the level 90 talents, you have the option to choose between Benediction, Divine Star and Halo. Benediction should be your default choice here, as Renew is quite high up on your healing, so having Prayer of Mending have a chance to passively spread it will save you a lot of globals over the course of a game. Also in comparison, Divine Star and Halo do too little healing. Divine Star does a very small amount of damage and healing in a cone in front of you. The healing from this is so small that it's not really ever worth taking over Benediction currently. However, in very rare situations where you are getting rushed down by the enemy team and need an extra instant heal, Divine Star can maybe be considered. Halo is an AoE heal doing some moderate healing and damage in a 30-yard range. With this being a cast and giving such small healing, it's never worth wasting globals on over Benediction, so shouldn't be taken for arena nor battlegrounds. Finally are the level 100 talents, where we have the choice between Light of the Naru, Apotheosis and Holy Word Salvation. Light of the Naru is the default choice here. It makes your Holy Words reduce an additional 30% when you cast the relevant spell, meaning your Serenity will reduce in cooldown by 8 seconds after every heal or flash heal. This should be the default choice in almost all scenarios, as it's too much overall healing to give up. Apotheosis reduces the cooldown reductions of your Holy Words when casting the relevant spell by 300% on a 2-minute cooldown and lasting for 20 seconds. This can be used as a tool to counter high burst setups and giving you a way to heal through the damage. Also, it can double up as a strong offensive cooldown, allowing you to chain stuns when playing with Censure if left to free cast. Last up is Holy Word Salvation. This is a 12-minute cooldown that can be reduced by 30 seconds every time you cast a Holy Word. It heals everybody in a 40-yard range for a decent amount and applies 2 stacks of Prayer of Mending and Renew to them. This is just a way too long cooldown to be considered for PvP. However, can still be fun to play around with in battlegrounds to dish out some insane gimmick healing per second. Now in Battle for Azeroth, Honor talents have changed. We have the option to choose between 11 Honor talents and could take any 3 at a time, as well as a trinket choice. Let's start with the trinket choice. Like in Legion, we have the option to choose between Adaption, Relentless and Gladiator's Medallion. First up is Adaption. This automatically trinkets you out of the first 5-second or longer crowd control that hits you. This in theory is good, as you basically have a trinket on a 1-minute cooldown but no control over it. However, it can easily be exploited by your opponents, as they could see you are playing it, meaning they could potentially bait your trinket and then kill you with all cooldowns in the next setup. This can, however, be considered versus some Hunter or Resto Druid teams in 2v2 as an extra way to avoid trap. Our second choice is Relentless. This is a flat 20% reduction on all crowd control, but you lose any control over your trinket. This can be considered versus compositions with a high amount of crowd control but think your team can survive. A great example is versus Shadow Priest Mage, where they have an abundance of crowd control but limited damage, meaning it's often better to have the reduced duration Relentless offers. Last up is Gladiator's Medallion. This makes your normal 3-minute Honors Medallion a 2-minute cooldown. This should be the default option and taken in most scenarios, as it offers you full control over your trinket and the ability to save your teammates or survive. Up next are Honor talents. Here you can see all the Honor talents that are currently available. I've marked ones that we will be using often with a green tick, situational ones with a question mark, and ones we would never be taking with a red cross. However, there is one Honor talent that you should always be taking, and I'll cover why now. This one Honor talent is Rapid Mending. Prayer of Mending is a very strong AoE heal in Arena, having 5 charges and bouncing between your teammates. This is important to take as it increases the range from 20 yards to 30 yards, meaning it's going to bounce more often and more importantly be an instant cast. This is a great tool for instant healing as well as applying Renew with the Benediction talent. Now we have 2 more choices to combine with our Rapid Mending to make our 3 Honor talents. These, however, are all heavily situational and it depend a lot on what composition you are facing as well as what comp you are playing. so the best way to do this is to cover all honor talents and discuss where and why you should be selecting them. First up is Delivered from Evil. This reduces the cooldown of your Leap of Faith by 45 seconds and removes all movement impairing effects on them. This is not bad by any means, but there isn't really any situation where this would be better than any other talents at our disposal, so it should never be taken in any circumstances. Next up is Divine Attendant. This flat out reduces the cooldown of your Guardian Spirit by 1 minute, making it now a 2-minute cooldown. This can be taken in rare situations where you will be using Guardian to survive strong 2-minute offensive cooldowns from your opponents. Greater Fade is an insanely strong honor talent and should be taken in almost all scenarios. It makes it so that your Fade increases your movement speed by 50% and causes most attacks to miss you. You are basically immune to damage and crowd control for 4 seconds. However, you can still be affected by interrupts, so bear that in mind. Fade is multifunctional and can be used either to avoid crowd control on you or simply survive enemy offensive cooldowns used onto yourself, or even as a speed boost to land crowd control. A great pick in almost all scenarios. Next up is Greater Heal. This reduces the cast time on your heal by 15% and also increases the target's maximum health by 20%. Even with this talent, heal is quite a long cast. However, this talent still has its place. It can be taken in heavy PvE mirrors where all you are doing for the game is stand in max range healing, such as in caster mirrors with limited interrupts. This will make it so that your heals are extra strong and you won't ever go out of mana. Holy Concentration reduces the interrupts onto you by 70% for 20 seconds after being interrupted. This is good versus enemy setups that have an abundance of interrupts, and you are finding it necessary to spam cast to top your teammates. A great example of this would be versus a melee cleave with a Resto Shaman, that target either you or put all interrupts into you. Another amazing honor talent Holy Priests have at their disposal is Holy Ward. This is a 30-second cooldown immunity to the next crowd control on either you or a teammate. This can be great for avoiding crowd control from enemies or even helping to survive versus melee comps that train you. However, this can be purged, so bear that in mind when opting to take it. Up next is Inner Focus. This provides an immunity to silence and interrupt effects for 5 seconds, and makes your next heal a guaranteed crit on a 30-second cooldown. This can be used as a tool to either immune interrupts if you need to spam cast, or allowing you to instantly top someone with a guaranteed critical strike Serenity. Miracle Worker makes it so that your biggest heal, Holy Word Serenity, has 2 charges. This can be considered in some rare scenarios where you need the extra charge to be able to top people, or find yourself having to spam heal for a lot of the game. It can also be a great tool in assisting in countering heavy rushdown compositions, but will only be taken in very rare scenarios. Ray of Hope pauses the target's health for 6 seconds and causes all healing to that target to be increased by 50%. This is a great tool in saving somebody, and then assisting in helping to top them. You should look to always cast a Holy Word Serenity into Ray of Hope to give you a higher chance at topping the target. Ray of Hope is also a great tool to take when you need a little extra healing to top a target through enemy offensive cooldowns. Last up is Spirit of the Redeemer. This makes you immune to all damage and interrupts for 7 seconds, and allows you to freely cast and heal your teammates. You cannot, however, heal yourself. This can be taken in some situations as a tool to be able to free cast and even immune damage. Some good examples of where this would be viable are versus comps that are looking to kill you instantly, where nothing but an immunity would save you. Rotating this with Greater Fade versus say a double DPS comp will make you immune to damage for some time. Here are some good examples of good builds that I've had success with. Now in Battle for Azeroth, we've gained access to some extra traits that buff our abilities in certain ways. You can get Azerite traits on your head, shoulders, and chest, and you have a main trait, role trait, and then a defensive trait. You want to focus mainly on getting the correct main trait. For Holy Priest, there is 2 strong ones that are dependent on the situation. The first one is Word of Mending. This will increase your healing of Prayer of Mending by a moderate amount and also reduces the cooldown on Sanctify by an additional amount. This is great when dealing with spread pressure, as Prayer of Mending already does some decent healing, and combining it with the shorter cooldown Sanctify can really help in topping your team through spread pressure. You can stack this up to 3 times in your head, shoulders and chest. This will be the preferred choice in Battlegrounds and Rated Battlegrounds. The second decent main Azerite trait is Permeating Glow. This increases the healing of your Flash of Light after casting it once already onto the target. This gives you some more single target healing, but also works with the trait Trial of Light to help you heal in 2 targets taking damage. This is just a great trait in countering single or duo target damage overall, and should be taken when you don't need the AoE healing provided by Word of Mending. There are also some strong role traits to look out for Holy Priest. These are Earthlink and Blood Siphon, both of which provide a boost to your favoured main stats. As for defensive traits, some good ones to look out for are Azerite Fortification, Long Strider and Gem Hide, giving you increased mobility or survivability. Now in Battle for Azeroth, once again stats and gear matter. There is no templates anymore, so making sure you're going for the correct stats on gear is very important in gaining that edge. For Holy Priest, the current 2 best stats are Mastery and Haste. You primarily want to be focusing on highest eye level as intellect is far above anything else however. Your current stat priority should look like this. You want a good balance between both haste and mastery while avoiding critical strike on gear. For enchants, primarily focused on haste as it will give you faster renew ticks and faster casts, allowing you to more easily get your holy words back off cooldown. As for trinkets, look to try get bonuses for passive stats or an on use to combine with Serenity to help give you some insane single target healing. Last up in this guide, we'd do a quick refresher and cover how to correctly heal as a Holy Priest. As a Holy Priest, a lot of your healing is based on the situation and revolves around you rotating cooldowns correctly. However, as a general rotation it should look like this. You'll be wanting to always keep Prayer of Mending on cooldown in all situations, as this will passively do a lot of healing and also apply your renew. However, you can still manually apply renew to targets without it, using any downtime you have to either smite or get chastised back or mind control to reduce damage or crowd control enemies, making sure to use Holy Word Sanctify on grouped up enemies that require some instant healing. The rest of your healing is situational. You have one big main heal to top people, and that's Holy Word Serenity. This is a 6-second cooldown but gets reduced every time you cast heal or flash heal. It's best to combine Serenity with other modifiers such as Ray of Hope or Inner Focus to instantly top a low teammate. Using your Serenity and cooldowns like Ray of Hope and Guardian Spirit correctly, and using all your utilities such as Fade and Holy Ward is a very important part of mastering Holy Priest. Divine Hymn can also be used as a tool to do some AoE healing while out of line of sight from the enemy, best used behind a pillar to guarantee you getting the cast off. Holy Word Chastise should be used either as an extra form of crowd control to either assist in landing psychic screams, or as a tool to set up kills if spec'd into Censure, making it a stun. Any downtime you have should be spent smiting to reduce the cooldown of this ability. That just about wraps up this Get Started Holy Priest guide for Battle for Azeroth. Thanks for watching and be sure to plus skill and leave any comments you still may have below.